Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to play Limbo because Limbo Prime is coming out pretty soon, and a lot of people are like worrying about like their Hydron lobbies being like spammed with multiple Limbos and Limbos modding for like maximum range and not letting anyone deal any damage, and yeah, so this video is going to go over how to basically mod your Limbos so you don't piss off your teammates, and also how you can kind of damage enemies if they're in the rift as well. So if you do happen to get a bad Limbo, this video is going to show you how you can actually still play the game when you have a shitty Limbo in your squad, right? So let's establish some ground rules first. Limbo is strictly, at least in my opinion, a defense frame. He works very similar to Frost, except his bubble is more duration based than it is health and armor based, right? So it doesn't have any health to it. It's just based off the duration, and it's also based off your power range as well. Much like Frost, much like Gara, you need to have at least a little bit of power range on there as well. Now, I'm going to be showing you guys 3 different builds. One is for defense, one is for mobile defense, and one is for interception. And these different builds all have different range stats, but they have somewhat similar duration stats. So the main focus behind it is keeping up your 4 and also keeping your 2 up as well. So anytime an enemy walks into your bubble, they get instantly frozen, right? So let's go ahead and just demonstrate how the abilities work to begin with. So we spawn in a bunch of enemies, doesn't matter what enemies it is. Just go ahead and make myself invincible here. And we go ahead and we press simulate. If we were to shoot my Limbo bubble on top of those enemies and then press my 2, it would completely freeze them in place because they would be in the rift and they would be in stasis. Now, any projectiles or shots coming into the rift will not damage you because, like I said, it's a defense frame. So you can see this guy shooting at me. No damage is being dealt because all those bullets are coming into the rift and just kind of getting absorbed. And it is purely based off your duration. So right now I have about a minute left on my orb. And you'll notice that as the duration decreases on my orb, so does the range. And that's kind of the balancing factor to it as well. So whenever you're in the rift, I believe you can actually pick up drops in here now as well. So like if there's a health orb or something, you can pick them up. They used to have it so that you couldn't do that. Not entirely sure on that fact or not, but even if you can't pick up drops, just run out of the orb and run back in, and you should be good to go. Now, whenever the enemies are frozen and you're inside the orb, you'll notice that you can't shoot at the enemies, right? If you wanted to shoot at the enemies, you'd have to press 2 again to let that bullet go as well, because your bullets get frozen too. So if you have a bad Limbo in your squad who's just keeping all enemies frozen and not letting you shoot at them, just use your melee. You can still melee them to death while you're in the orb, which is cool. So if you want to get them out of that orb, totally fine to just go ahead and melee every single one of them, right? So let's just go ahead and kill all the guys here. What you're also going to notice is whenever you do a little roll, you're actually going to put yourself into the rift too. So he's got like his own little unique roll, which is pretty cool and awesome, which can put you in and out of the rift. So there's really almost no excuse for dying as Limbo unless you get caught outside of the rift. Now, whenever you do a little dash, you leave behind this portal. If you go through that portal as another player, you're also going to be put into the rift. And if you do happen to go into the rift accidentally, let's say the Limbo player puts stasis, or not stasis, but his first ability on you, you can go ahead and roll to get out of the rift. Or if you accidentally walk into that portal, you can roll to get out of the rift. So that's just some good points for countering bad Limbo play, right? So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm going to be showing you guys 3 different builds. So, one is for defense, which I just have at like a decent size, like the size of like the sort of like general area of the Void defense tile set, you know? So you point your crosshair towards the thing that you're defending, you press 4, and it would make a very decent sized, almost the same as Frost Snow Globe bubble around it. So that would be the build that I'm using right now. And you can kind of see the range of the bubble, so it's just a tiny bit bigger than Frost Snow Globe if you're modding it correctly. So it's pretty good, it's pretty effective, and like I mentioned beforehand, as this bubble shrinks, it's going to, well, as the bubble loses duration, it's going to shrink alongside that. So modding for power range is very important. So what I've done in this build, I believe I've only modded for stretch and cunning drift, which gives me let me see, my range stat is 94% because I also have narrow minded on here, right? Because I want to favor that duration And I also want to have a decent sized bubble. Now, the base range on Limbo's bubble is very huge, right? And you'll notice that whenever I show you guys the interception build, it literally covers like almost half of a normal interception map. It's that insane. So you may want to drop your range down below the 100% mark with this defense build. It's just a balanced mixture of range and also duration on here. So you have narrow-minded, prime continuity, constitution, augur message for your duration, streamlined for your efficiency on casting, vitality for your health, and then cunning, drift, and stretch for your range. And then your aura slot, you can either use cruise projection or energy siphon depending on the content you're going up against. So that is your basic defense build. Now moving on a little bit, you can use this build in mobile defense as well. But I have a more specific one which will make it so that players can still run around and just get kills in mobile defense, because mobile defense is more, it's more just based around putting the payload in and then leaving the thing to do its thing for like 2.5 minutes or whatever and just killing bad guys, right? So this is the mobile defense build. It is heavily modded for power duration as well. Not as much, but it still has a bunch of duration on there. So we have constitution, we have prime continuity, narrow-minded on there for your duration, as well as augur message. Had a little brain fart there. Streamline and fleeting, so I can just cast it like as soon as I want to, because you're gonna want to cast it like at least once or twice per mobile defense target unless you time it right. Then we have vitality on here for health, prime flu for our energy, and then I have endurance drift on here because I didn't want to add on any more power range. And you can basically throw anything on here that you like. It's just a matter of, are you willing to form a limbo that much? Like, keep in mind, Limbo Prime is coming out, so it wouldn't be worth forming Limbo like the 4 times that I have, right? So wait for that Limbo Prime and then form a him from that point onwards. So again, same thing with your aura. You can pretty much use whatever you like. It's down to you, and it also depends on the content that you're facing. Now you'll notice with this build is that we have, you know, negative power range. We don't mod for any power range at all. And you'll notice how tiny the bubble is. Now that lets you put your bubble on top of the mobile defense target without you know, affecting your allies, right? So you can just plop that on top of the mobile defense target, run away from it, get kills, explore the map, do whatever. If you cast this at like the 2-minute mark, then that bubble is going to last the, you know, exact amount of time that you need it to last on your little payload thing, the thing that you're protecting. Not to mention, you can also cast stasis, and that's going to last for, you know, almost 2 minutes if you're modding it correctly or modding it in the same way that I do. Of course, what you could do with this build is you could completely remove fleeting and then throw on like another duration mod if you want to format again. Personally, didn't want to do that. I don't think there is any more. Yeah, there is no more duration mods that I could throw on, but you could throw on something different, right? So whatever you really want to. If you just want to have streamline on there, that's totally a-okay, but I feel that having streamline plus fleeting allows me to cast it whenever I need to. It's awesome and it's good to go, and it just lets me play around with my abilities while I'm not necessarily focusing too much on my bubble, right? I can trigger stasis on and off if I just want to mess around with enemies or whatever, and that's cool, you know, it's fun. And then our third build is my max range build, right? So we have Cunning Drift, Overextended, Augur Reach, and Stretch. And then we have a decent bit of duration, Augur Message, Prime Continuity, Constitution. We don't have any Narrow-Minded on here because we don't want that negative range. We have our Prime Flow for energy, Streamline for our efficiency, and then we have Energy Siphon on here, so then we can cast our abilities as much as possible. Now, with Limbo, I wouldn't say it's worth modding for power strength at all. I wouldn't say it's necessarily worth modding for his first ability unless you're using the healing augment for it and you're using it in defection. But Banish and Rift Surge just are not abilities that I use a lot. What does Rift Surge actually do? You know, it gives bonus duration, banish radius. So Riftbound enemies with Rift energy, when killed, Rift Surge is transferred to a nearby enemy. Outside the Rift Surge, enemies that leave the Rift perform a radial banish. It's okay, you know, it's just all about spreading your banish across enemies. Again, your 1 and your 3 just aren't abilities that I mod for, or that I mean the mod for. They do get positive effects from the builds that I show in today's video, but, you know, they're not the main focus of playing Limbo, right? So here is the size of the Limbo bubble if you're using the defense one, or not the defense one, the interception one. And with the interception one, it's very similar to your defense and mobile defense, where you want to be casting your 4 and then casting your free, and then any enemy that walks into the area is going to be completely frozen in place, and that's going to last for about a minute, right? So that entire minute, any enemy that's inside this bubble is going to be completely frozen in place, which makes this great for interception because any enemy that walks in here is going to be frozen, so they can't capture your point, right? So if you have like 4 limbos on an interception, it's pretty much GG. You put 1 limbo bubble on every single point modded for a decent bit of range and a decent bit of duration, and it's GG easy. You know, I recommend using the first build that I showed you if you're running with 4 limbos, but if you're the only limbo in the squad, I recommend running this build because you might be able to cover 2 points in any given interception mission with this build, right? So let's just go ahead and uncast, and we'll spawn in some enemies to kind of demonstrate again. So check this out. We press R4 and then we press R2 right now, and now every single enemy is completely frozen in place and they can't do anything to stop it. And we can also still melee them while they're like this, right? So if you're playing against high level enemies, go ahead and melee them. You know, if you have a Zaw, it should be easy peasy to take them down, especially because they're frozen. It gives you time to build up your combo counter, stuff like that. So Limbo is a great frame. Limbo is probably one of the best defense frames in the game. You just have to know how to play him right, and hopefully I demonstrated how to play him right in today's video. Why people get pissed off is if someone goes into a defense or whatever, puts down their massive bubble, press 2, and then the enemies or your teammates can't get any kills with their guns. That tends to annoy people because they tend to be leveling their primaries or their secondaries, so they want to be getting kills with those types of weapons, right? They don't want to have to bring a melee weapon in just to put up with your bubble. So if you're going to be taking Limbo into a public defense mission, use the first build. If you're going to be taking Limbo into a public mobile defense mission, use the second build. And if you're taking Limbo into a public interception mission, use the third build. Pretty straightforward, at least in my opinion. That is Limbo. He's a really good frame, implying you know how to use him right and you don't piss off your teammates. Keep in mind also that Warframe abilities can be used while inside the rift, so if you have Mace's Peacemakers, you can still use that to damage enemies inside the rift. Same with Excalibur's Exalted Blade. Warframe abilities work. I don't know what to tell you. They're great. Equinox Meme plus Limbo is insane. Resonating Quake Banshee plus Limbo is insane. Try it out. You know, try out a bunch of different combinations. Let me know what you think of the different combos in the comment section below, and also what you think about Limbo and Limbo Prime. And other than that, guys, if you like this video, go ahead, hit like. If you dislike the video, dislike it. If you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.